Yo, what is up, guys? Shinobi here, back again with another video for you guys. And today, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, we got more news talking about Valve, MasterCard, and the government and others trying to censor gaming and anime here. Specifically, in this case, though, we're talking about Steam anime. Now, to catch up anybody who doesn't know exactly what's going on, basically, a group called Collective Shout, which is a feminist group in Australia, basically took to the internet, started bugging these payment processors, specifically Visa and MasterCard, and started talking about how there are games on Steam that they don't like, and that, if they don't basically tell these people at Valve to, who control Steam, to take these games down, then they're going to start slandering them and shit. And we already know that the companies, as far as their brand, they're concerned about that shit. So in this case, MasterCard and Visa basically went and took down those games, and now the whole world is in uproar because there should be no reason why a 1,000 group strong feminist group who doesn't even care about gaming, I might add, should have that much power. And here we are. And then on top of that, for anybody who watched the last video I did covering this kind of thing or reacting to this kind of thing, we do know also the fact that the UK and the US and the Europe and, if I'm correct, Britain are kind of doing some crazy crap. Though, to be honest, it's more on Britain, Europe, and the UK for that. But the US is also kind of doing the same thing. So, really important stuff to talk about here. But in this case, it's mostly talking about MasterCard and Steam here. So that's going to be what we're looking at. Make sure you leave a like, though. Subscribe to the channel. Because once again, with YouTube, how it works now, they didn't tell anybody this. But it doesn't matter if you watch the whole entire video. But if you don't, it doesn't matter if you watch the whole video, unless you comment or unless you leave a like or some form of engagement. That's just how they operate now. I don't know why it's like this, but no longer are we in the days of YouTube where you can, just view the whole video to support your favorite creator and whatnot. Leaving a like and subscribing would be helpful to get the video out in the algorithm, though. So, because I feel like this is something that needs to be talked about, and it's something that is really important. So, leave a comment, all that stuff. Or if you are going to be doing something else in the background, then, just like the video and then just have it on in the background, because that's a good way to help get the news out there, and on top of it, to help support the channel. But let's see what we got going on here. Chibi Reviews has been covering all this stuff for a very long time, so let's go ahead and see what he's got to say here. Looks like something about MasterCard trying to deflect blame, which we saw some of that on Twitter recently.
MasterCard deflects blame for NSFW games being taken down, but Valve says payment processors specifically cited a MasterCard rule about damaging the brand. Valve, aka Steam, just straight up said that MasterCard's liars. That's what
pretty much
means. And if you go down and you read what is said here, you actually see the comment from Valve when they talk about this. This is what it says here. In a statement provided to PC Gamer, Valve said that it had tried to work things out with MasterCard directly prior to removing the games, and suggested that MasterCard did have at least an indirect influence on the outcome. MasterCard did not communicate with Valve directly, despite our request to do so,
no big
a
surprise.
Valve representative said. MasterCard communicated with payment processors and their acquiring banks. Payment processors communicated this with Valve, and we replied by outlining Steam's policy since 2018 of attempting to distribute games that are legal for distribution. And then what payment processors responded with was this. Payment processors rejected this and specifically cited MasterCard's Rule 5.12.7 and risk to the MasterCard brand. And this is what the rule actually states. Rule 5.12.7 relates to illegal or brand-damaging transactions and states a merchant must not submit to its acquirer and a customer must not submit to the interchange system any transaction that is illegal or in the sole discretion of the corporation may damage the goodwill of the corporation. Now,
the really important thing about this is the big thing that a lot of people are pissed off about, is the part where it says a customer may not submit or to the interchange system, basically buy anything that is illegal or in the sole discretion of the corporation may damage the goodwill of the corporation or reflect negativity on the marks. Now, the thing that pisses people off right now about this, even though this statement's already garbage as it is none of the games that they basically targeted on Steam were illegal. They were definitely, I would say, questionable games, but they weren't illegal games. What I mean by questionable games, I mean they were basically those kind of just $2, corn games that nobody really gives a shit about. That deal in really heavy topics that a lot of people don't agree about. But they weren't illegal. It wasn't doing anything crazy. And once again, the big thing about this is a lot of these games that got banned, while me personally probably ain't the biggest fan of a lot of them, I don't play them anyways. A lot of those games, especially the adult games, you had to go and search for that shit. And even if you were underage somehow and got your hands to the point where you can somehow get to those games because you had to search for them in Steam, you have to enter your credit card information and clarify that you're an adult before you can even buy those games on Steam. They have stuff in place just for this problem that's being talked about. But somehow, some way, MasterCard and Visa got influenced by this feminist group who basically somehow got in their heads and, I guess harassed them enough to the point where now they're targeting Steam and Valve and basically saying you gotta take these games down because in our eyes, these games could damage our brand if we have our customers or people using MasterCards buying this stuff. Like, once again, the whole big thing is that they're trying to tell people who and what they cannot buy. That's like the big thing. And another thing is this statement right here, specifically, the or in the sole discretion of the corporation may damage the goodwill of a corporation or, reflect negatively on the marks. This right here specifically, how do we know what you think is going to, reflect negatively on your corporation? How do we know what we're going to be buying reflects negatively on your corporation? What is the marker for that? What is the marker for that? Because basically what's going on here is MasterCard and Visa are kind of being vague about, okay, what and people can buy and what they cannot buy, which is what people are pissed off about. Because once again, agendas change. We already know this from the last video. They're ruled by people who aren't perfect. So 1 minute right now, for instance, it's, corn games. That's the easiest thing to go after. But what's to say what somebody makes a game, that these feminist groups don't like now? And then they target Visa and MasterCard again. And they're like, okay, we got to ban that. Once again, right now it's corn games and like these really cheap games and whatnot. But, sooner or later, there's going to, start targeting anime games, fighting games, shooters, so on and so forth. Like, these things can change. Right now, it's just the corn games, and they're trying to, do it in the name of protecting the kids and women. But what happens when that's out of the way, and it's like, okay, those games are gone. Now we can start targeting other stuff that we don't like. Slippery slope, man. Slippery slope.
Or reflect negatively on the marks.
Slippery slope, bro.
You know what this basically means right here? Unironically, it's this. It's this. Censoring Japan, disabling payments, all in the sake of protecting the brand. It is...
Yeah, and that's another thing. They say that in their, thing, it's to protect their children and women. But in reality, let's be real, it's to protect their brand. And what's even more funny about this is these people talk about how they want to protect their brand, right? With Visa and MasterCard. But yet, I don't see them making a big fuss about other adult sites like, The Hub or, sites like, obviously, OnlyFans that actually can and are doing real harm to women and children. Like, what are we doing out here? What are we doing out here? We can't be talking about one, like either you ban it all or you don't ban it at all. And me personally, I don't care. I say don't ban anything. It is, once again, as far as kids go, it's up to the parents to basically raise their kids so they don't get into this kind of stuff. And as for the adults, it's their money. They worked for it. So they should be able to buy it as long as it's not illegal. And a lot of these games, as untasteful as they might be to a lot of people, are not illegal. Sure, people might not like them. Hell, I don't even like them. But they're not illegal. Because if they were, they wouldn't be making it past Steam's library. They wouldn't be able to get posted on Steam's library in the first place. They just wouldn't. They just wouldn't. So, yeah, that's kind of basically the gist of what's going on here. Now, I'm going to let Chibi continue here, because once again, I wouldn't be surprised if this gets worse.
Actually crazy that they're using the exact same statement that the CEO of Visa Japan said. MasterCard is literally pretty much word for word,
bar for bar,
exact same thing.
Word for word, bar for bar.
They want to talk about brand damage to the brand.
Oh, here you go.
I'm going to tell you.
Here we go.
Steam, itch.io, and other companies that have been affected negatively by this straight up could potentially start a legal battle. I can see a legal battle starting. And let's explain why. Just from an outsider looking at it, and I'm obviously not a worker for Valve/Steam or even itch.io, you gotta look at what this does to the public perception of Steam and itch. Steam removed hundreds of games, and they legit made an entirely new policy just to bow down to these payment processors, to bow down to MasterCard and Visa. And obviously, this caused a lot of people to get upset. A lot of people are like, why would you basically bend over for these payment processors that want to damage you and ruin the goodwill? Like, you know, your good image, for instance. A lot of people have this very good image of Steam. And obviously, sometimes Steam might do something that's not good. But overall, Steam's relationship with the consumer is relatively positive. I think pretty much most people can agree with that. The public perception of Steam is in a very positive light. However, after this situation, this definitely calls into question Steam, and it makes people view Steam in a little bit more of a negative light, because it's like, oh, so you're just bending over, you're not really even fighting back against payment processors, and you make an entirely new rule that's pretty much arbitrary, where you will do whatever these payment processors want you to do. You will censor and remove things at a whim if they just do not like it.
Yeah, because that's basically what's happening here. Because because Steam basically bent the knee to these companies, these payment processors. Basically, at this point, the with how it is now with Steam, anytime Visa or MasterCard view something as problematic to them, they can go over to Steam now and basically say, hey, remove that shit. Like, let's say that one day Visa and MasterCard once again see anime as a problem. You know, they can start banning that shit. They can just tell, hey, either you're banning that shit or we're taking our shit, or either you ban that or we're taking our stuff away from you to where you can't even get paid anymore. Oh, we don't like shooters, we don't like guns. Hey, every gun game on there, gone. You know, what else? We don't like this game that somebody made on your platform because it doesn't fit our political views. Boom, gone. That's the state of Steam right now. And once again, it only took 1,000 people from this feminist group to get them to remove the games that they did do. And now Pandora's box is open, and now Visa and MasterCard, they can remove any game they want to see gone at this point. If they think it's going to damage their brand, they can basically walk over to Steam and be like, hey, we don't like this. Remove every game that even is similar to that game, or else we're going to take our stuff away from you and you won't. Like, it's that, like, the slippery slope, bro. It's getting to a point where, like, people are going to start pirating again. I wouldn't be surprised to see the day and age where people start pirating games and stuff again, because Steam, which used to be one of the biggest it still is one of the biggest platforms out there for gaming. But Steam, which used to be not only one of the biggest platforms for gaming, but also one of the freest places to express yourself and express what game you want to put on Steam in the gaming history, is now under the control of these Visa and MasterCard people who, at this point, were somehow convinced by 1,000 feminists to get rid of a bunch of games that, once again, barely anybody either knew about or played. That's like the key thing, is this feminist group, they don't go after the big dogs. The only one they went after so far has been, obviously, GTA 5, if I'm correct, and they got it removed out of Target somehow. That's the only big one they went after, though. All the other stuff they've been doing is they go after small stuff. But the problem is because they're going after all this small stuff, it then opens the door for all the rest of the bullshit that's going on here. And we're seeing it now. And it's bad. Because people should be able to have freedom of expression to make whatever game they want as long as it's legal. As long as it's legal. That's all that needs to be done. If it's legal, Who cares if you don't like it? Who cares? If it's legal, who gives a crap if you don't like it or if it's against your values or whatever? It's not up to you to decide who and what gets put on a platform, especially considering that MasterCard and Visa don't own Steam. Yeah, they're being used as a payment processor for those companies, but they don't own Steam. But at this point, they pretty much do because they took it. At this point, they do now. I would assume like they don't actually own it, but they basically own Steam right now because they can basically look at Steam and be like, maybe I don't like this game, and I'm just gonna get rid of it. It's bad. It's really bad.
That's pretty much what the entire new policy does. And obviously, this is obviously causing a lot of people not wanting to potentially work with Steam. It's going to cause game developers, indie devs, to potentially think twice before they might release their game on Steam's platform. Because at any given moment, it might be removed. Because these payment processors might bullseye one of their games and just completely remove them from the platform and remove all their income. So that is 100% damage to the brand. That's not even including the amount of games that were de-indexed or removed completely from Steam's platform already, and they're still not up. The fact is that obviously is a loss of revenue. That's a loss of money. And even if it doesn't get into like millions upon billions of dollars, it's still a loss of revenue. It still hits Steam. It hurts content creators as well that release these games on their platform. And one of the big things that obviously Valve/Steam even stated is that these games, regardless if they, might seem icky or nasty to some people, they are legal. They are straight up legal. They're fictional. They are free to operate in the market. There is nothing illegal about them. So, for instance, a United States citizen wanting to buy these, like, for instance, adult games, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. However, the fact that MasterCard and these payment processors cited a rule about illegal selling of content, or at the very least they said may damage the goodwill of the corporation or reflect negatively on the marks, says enough that it isn't about the illegal content.
No.
It's more or less just control, and
it's
also
basically
they're just doing an arbitrary rule to just basically say we're doing this for brand protection because we don't want to be associated with this type of content, which is really messed up since they basically own an entire monopoly. They own a monopoly of the market. There's not really any other option. For instance, a market's supposed to be free. You're supposed to be able to, like, if a company, kind of is like doesn't want to do business with you, you should be able to shop for options and do this other business. But the fact that Visa and MasterCard are like a dual monopoly, they control pretty much the entire world, there's nothing you can really do. You can't fight back against that, which is why Steam obviously had to, yes master, and basically back down and bow down to MasterCard and them because
if they had any other option, they wouldn't have. But because they don't, if they didn't bow down to them, which is why I don't blame them necessarily, if they didn't bow down to them immediately, they would have basically lost all the revenue. Like, Steam would be dead right now. You wouldn't be able to buy again. Hell, Steam would not exist probably right now. Now, what Steam could have done is took their assets to court, because at the end of the day, the games were illegal, so the only thing left is basically damage to the corporation, or basically, aka, what do we not like?
They couldn't fight it, or they would get blacklisted, and then the damage wouldn't just affect, like, adult games, it would affect their entire platform. And you can obviously see the PR nightmare of that alone. The damage to Steam would be insane. Like, probably the biggest damage we've ever seen from a gaming platform.
Like, imagine if Steam didn't bow down immediately, and then after that, you go to Steam the next day, and it says, sorry, every game you bought on Steam, gone. Better yet, Steam, you open it up, sorry, but we can't do anything no more. Because these payment processors have removed their shit, so until we find a new one, Steam is down. Imagine that, bruh.
Platform or gaming company. But I need to back up because I'm getting a little bit off topic. The point of the matter is that Steam obviously had damage to their brand. The same can be said for itch.io, and itch.io is going to be hit harder. And the reason for that is because it is more of a niche gaming site than Steam is. Let's just be blunt. Now, itch is big. It is. It has a lot of indie games and stuff that become very popular from it that blow up into the mainstream, but it is a smaller site. And the thing about this is thanks to what happened recently, A lot of people that make these indie games might not want to host their indie game on their platform in
Nope.
fear of it getting removed.
Same
now,
thing.
Obviously, itch.io is trying their best to fight back. They are releasing games like adult games that are labeled free back on their platform. But the point is that the pressure from these payment processors has damaged them. They have lost a lot of money as well, and it's damaged their site's reputation. And so if we're talking about damage to the brand, they have been affected a lot. That's not including these Japanese sites, the Japanese dating app, and a bunch of other things that I am completely unaware of. If MasterCard and Visa straight up want to say damage to the brand, they're damaging others. And this is why I say, I honestly think that we're at the precipice of seeing a legal battle.
Yeah.
Like an actual legal battle from like Steam or something.
And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Steam wins that legal battle, because nothing is illegal that's on Steam. There's no illegal shit on there. So the only condition left for these payment processors to remove games is basically saying we don't like it, in a nutshell, which is subjective, because what these, payment processors like and don't like can change from day to day. One day they could say, oh, we don't like these corn games. Next day they could say, oh, we don't like anime. And we can't nobody can operate a business like that. Because at that point, okay, one day you could say you don't like this, but then the next day you could say you don't like this. And then at that point, nobody can make shit. And once again, the big thing is the fact that this all started with a feminist group starting this bullshit. A feminist group I had that has nothing to do with gaming or doesn't know anything about gaming. Like, this is, once again, some Gamergate 2.0 type bullshit. Where you got idiots out here running around censoring games and shit because they don't like it, or it objectifies women, or we're trying to do it for the children bullshit. Yeah, right. Get that shit out of here. Like, it's crazy. And funny thing with this is, once again, I feel like that if Steam fights back, we basically win outright, because all Steam's got to basically say, I'm not a legal guy, but all Steam's got to say is our games that we had on our platform that got removed because of this were maybe distasteful, but they were legal. They weren't illegal games, and they were fiction. So what are we to do? And they can also be like, because of Visa and MasterCard's rule that they made, or the what they were doing, we've lost a lot of trust with our customers, damaging our brand. And we can actually show you, how damaged our brand is versus MasterCard and Visa, where basically nothing's damaged at all.
Against MasterCard and Visa. Because the pressure is obvious that these card companies are feeling pressure because they're making statements trying to deny the allegations or statements against them when we know they're lying. There is a massive paper trail against them for years upon years. They can't really get out of this one now that it's just such public knowledge now, because it's no longer contained just to the anime community. It's the gaming community as well now, and a lot of journalists that are on both sides are talking about this. You have news sources that have been very biased and anti-gamer for literally a decade plus at this point, also on the side of gamers. I think this says a lot. This is not something MasterCard and Visa can really talk their way out of. It's bad. It's not a good look. And even if they theoretically back down and they allow these games back on these platforms,
everybody's going to be freaking second guessing their ass now. Everybody's going, once again, the damage to Steam is basically permanent here, because now people are going to look and think twice before putting their indie game or whatever game they want on Steam, because when's the next time MasterCard and Visa are going to do this shit? And that's if they back down. What's the next excuse that Visa and MasterCard are going to make to remove these games? Because they don't like it. Not because it's illegal, but because they don't like it. Like, Steam's brand has been temporary, well, not even temporary, basically, what, my brain, it's not working right now. Permanently damaged because of this crap that's going on. Because now people are going to think twice.
I feel like that will also open up a whole new can of worms of legal issues as well. But let's get back into the main point of what MasterCard has done here. They are directly trying to deny these accusations by saying that the people beneath them, these banks and these other people, like these actual providers, these payment processors or whatever below them, are the reasons why it got denied. But the fact that they turn around and use the rule from MasterCard to allow this showcases that MasterCard, more or less, if we wanted to summarize this business, they probably heard wind of everything going on. They've been getting a lot of calls and stuff like that. And they probably were like, okay, make this problem go away. And probably told the people below them and all that and other businesses like banks and stuff, make this problem disappear. And which then they contacted Steam. And then obviously Steam was pressured into, removing the games.
Yep.
And what really gives evidence to this, actually, is the fact Valve's statement here to PC Gamer, what they say about it, is that they directly contacted MasterCard. They ignored them. But then, eventually, as they were ignored, you had the payment processors contact them, and it was basically a spokesperson for MasterCard and them. And then Steam follows up with a policy, basically outlining and showing their policies, that what they've had on their site since the very beginning for a very long time. And then, suddenly, the next thing we get is Steam removes games and they add a new policy. It's very obvious what happened here, that once they showed their policies to management, they're like, you need to add a new policy for us, for the card companies.
Yep.
Very, very apparent what happened there. So I think we are getting a timeline now on how this all went down. And I think Valve, in their own way, are rebelling. They are straight up, they are on our side in their own way. And they are just letting the public use this knowledge to keep speaking out about it. Because I think that right now, this is probably the most pressure in a while these card companies have felt. And I think they do not understand the hornet's nest they have walked on or stepped on.
Yeah. And Collector Shout, by the way, for anybody wondering about them, they're getting cooked too because they're the reason behind all this crap. They basically had to lock all their shit on Twitter because they're getting cooked. They're getting cooked beyond belief. And it's gotten to the point where Elon Musk even has seen some shit like this. Like, the whole world is talking about this. The whole world is talking about this, not only because of what's going on here, but also because of all the censorship that's going on with the internet. Because of the whole UK, Britain, and freaking Europe situation. And how, with YouTube right now, when it hits August 13th, as far as we know, you have to show ID in order to actually access YouTube now. To prove that you're not a kid. Which... it's either that, or you're probably going to have to prove that you're not a kid by showcasing your credit card information, which is what they want you to do anyways. That's a win-win for them, because if you put your credit card information in there, more likely than not, in their heads, they think that you're going to buy YouTube Premium. I'm not. Shit. But for some people, they might just do it. It's the same way that gacha games get you sometimes, where they get you to make one small purchase to get a little bit ahead, and the next thing you know, they got you buying the $4.99 pack, and then they got you buying the $19.99 pack, and so on and so forth. So, yeah.
Because of this situation. And the fact that you have like 4chan and a bunch of other major sites just calling them every single minute now at this moment is hilarious, but makes a lot of sense. Because every time you give them a call, it charges them. And anything when it comes to call centers and stuff, if it's over 80% traffic, these call centers do not like that. They don't. They straight up do not, because it charges them and they want that traffic to go down. So the fact that they're probably getting calls so much is making them upset. MasterCard and Visa are losing money. Yeah,
and for anybody who doesn't know what's going on, basically what's going on is people are doing the counter version of what Collective Shout did. So it took 1,000 emails harassing MasterCard and Visa to get them to start taking down games on Steam. So what the gamers are doing is they're basically saying, let's fight fire with fire. And what we're going to do is we're going to all start calling these payment processors, and we're going to harass them until they stop messing with our shit. And as we are talking right now, people are calling up Visa and MasterCard and telling them how pissed off they are about their decision to mess with their games and to mess with Steam and to try and take away freedom of speech and expression. And as he said, every single time they get a call, it costs them money. And all these calls are basically useless because they're not really calling for any problems, but they're pissed. So they're losing a lot of money right now. and they're cracking, which is why we're even getting stuff like this in the first place. They're trying to make it look like they're the good guys and that they didn't do anything wrong, when we all know damn well that they are not the good guys, and they're the reason we're in this mess in the first place, because for some reason they decided to listen to some 1,000 strong group of pathetic feminists who don't give a shit about fucking gaming to begin with. Because these idiots decided to listen to some feminists about gaming, they are now in this mess that they're in now. And I bet that right now they're probably regretting listening to them idiots right now. I probably bet right about this point, they're probably regretting listening to them feminists at the moment.
And they don't like that. Even if it might be only like a few $100,000 to them, that's still unacceptable.
Yep.
They don't like that. And I feel like if this continues to go on for like, let's say a month plus, 2 months or whatever, there will be some probably some changes. I definitely sense it. But yeah, I wanted to bring this up. This was insane news to read. Like, I mean, MasterCard's rules being like this is so arbitrary, which, by the way, if you're wondering what you're looking at, this is the MasterCard rules, their official rules, and I want you to look at the top of the screen here. 484 pages, man. They have so many freaking rules, it's actually insane. And the rule that, the one that we're discussing today, it's on page 122 here, and this is what they outlined, if you're wondering what it outlines. It's insane, just like how you have to dig. You have to really dig in these rules just to find it, and how many they have for just arbitrary things. But regardless of that, yeah, I don't think MasterCard's really walking away from this. And I think if the pressure builds on them, Visa will be forced to make a statement as well. I'll leave it at that, though. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, please subscribe, leave a comment. It does help with the algorithm, allows more people to become aware of this and spread this story, because more people need to know about this and continue talking about it, because it is very important to discuss.
It is indeed. And yeah, now once again, I'll leave the link down to this video down below. But yeah, this is kind of an update. MasterCard and Visa are feeling the pressure. They are indeed feeling the pressure, and people are fighting back. Not only against the censorship going on in the UK and whatnot, but it's also against these payment processors who are trying to censor anime, gaming, whatever basically they don't like, which could be anything. I'm gonna be real with you. But yeah, it's craziness out here. But without further ado, that's pretty much gonna be it. And I'll see you guys in the next one. We'll have to see where this goes from here. But, once again, the fight is not done. The job is not finished. And I have a feeling we're going to be seeing a lot more of this in the future days.